Hello everyone, I hope you're all having an amazing day today. It's Jackie from Thrift Avenue here. Today I'm going to be talking to you about where and what I source for Poshmark specifically. And I'm not only going to be talking about the items that I source for listing, but the items that I source for live show selling as well. But before we get started on that, if you like this video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe here on Vendu's YouTube channel. We strive to give our audience everything that they need to know about reselling. There are a ton of videos on our channel already for you to explore, so go ahead and check them out. And also, before we get started, we actually have a special guest today, and that is the other half of Thrift Avenue. That is going to be my husband, Clay. All right, so this is my husband, Clay. Hi, guys. He is the other half of Thrift Avenue. Now, he is one of the main people in our business that does our sourcing, so I obviously thought it would be great to bring him in so he can kind of talk about how he sources, because a lot of times the way the two of us source is a little bit differently, yes. So you can kind of get two different perspectives on that. So we're going to start by talking about items that we list on Poshmark, and then we'll go into our Poshmark live selling sourcing as well. So to start with listing items first, Poshmark specifically. We are definitely looking at brand, quality, and uniqueness when it comes to the things that we list on Poshmark. So, Poshmark, like Free People, Anthropology, those are the only two brands, Madewell, like those kind of items do very well on Poshmark, but those brands do very well when they are unique brands. They're not, when they're unique pieces, they're not pieces that are oversaturated. They're not basic pieces. Zara as well is sometimes very good on Poshmark as well. But again, it can't be those basic pieces. So when we're sourcing those items specifically, again, we're looking at the quality of the item. And then we're also going to be looking at, okay, let's pull up Poshmark. Let's, look this item up specifically. Let's see how many items are on there. Let's see, is this more of a unique piece where we can maybe get a little bit more for it versus a non-unique piece, that kind of thing. And we mainly, when it comes to the items that we list, we're mainly sourcing from the thrift store. So Goodwill, Salvation Army, Volunteers of America, those places, because they are going to be the places that tend to have more of what we're looking for. We've also sourced from places like ThredUp or Helpsy Source or online sourcing options as well, because that helps us bring in those brands that we're not going to find in our local area. Like we can definitely find Zara. We can definitely find Zara in our local area. But Madewell is kind of more few and far between. So if I want to try to get some more Madewell pieces listed, I will look online for sourcing from the online thrift item places, like I said, like ThredUp or Helpsy Source.
I know, like I've given the example before to people, like if we're meeting people that sell on Poshmark, either talking online or when we were at Posh Fest, like to give an idea of our area, I can find a pair of Levi's all day long, but in 3 years, Jackie and I have found 3 pieces of Lululemon ever. So those like calibers of brands, we a lot of times have to source from places on the internet like a ThredUp.
Yeah. So, and then I will say that the benefit of being able to source yourself in person is you can actually have your hands on that item to see the quality of it better. But when you're sourcing online, now with the Google image search thing that you can do, it is a little bit easier to find whether that item is listed on Poshmark better. So to kind of sum up everything I said, when it comes to what we source specifically for listing on Poshmark, we're looking for trendy pieces that are good quality, that are unique and sought after, but not oversaturated on the market. So do you want to add on to that?
Yeah. And I'll be the first to admit I haven't always done that. I knew nothing about fashion 2 years ago, and I'm still learning every day, but I used to shop by brand name, and I wouldn't care if it was a basic piece. If it said, Eddie Bauer, I would pick it up. And we've got a lot of basic Eddie Bauer pieces or White House Black Market or Guess, brands like that, where if it's a unique piece, it'll move well, but not necessarily if it's just a basic, or at least not at the price point you want. But one thing that, I've really done is I've thought about, different ways that we can bring in inventory. Because I know a lot of people, they just do Goodwill bins, or they just do Salvation Armies, or they just buy out pallets. We've tried about everything to see what works for us, and you win some, you lose some. But I try to keep my mind open to lots of different ways to acquire stuff. I know we just had we bought out a lot of Pendleton on Facebook Marketplace. It was all vintage dead stock, mostly new with tag. I think we averaged $8.41 per item. There was 25 items, and we're selling these things between $75 and $115 a piece. So I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. But if we were just had our blinders on to I just do Goodwill or I just do pallets, I wouldn't have even thought to look there. So always, keeping your eyes peeled for where you can acquire new stuff is great. I just got back. Me and the 3-year-old had a 4-hour round trip car ride because I bought some things on estate auctions in Detroit, and went down there and picked some stuff up. Some will be lists, some will be live auction. We got to sort through that. But the point is, don't just look at one thing. Keep your mind open to other ways to source inventory. I know I pick up, so usually once a week, my work is about 3 minutes away from a Salvation Army that they have a $1 day on Mondays, and I'll go on my lunch hour and I'll go looking to source things there. So yeah, I mean, I would just say, keep your mind open to all sorts of different ways to acquire inventory.
Yeah, and I will say too, when it comes to when we're sourcing specifically for listing items, we're definitely taking more time on finding those items than we would when we're just sourcing for live show selling. Because when you list something, you're gonna want, the goal for listing, in my opinion, is you're looking to make a decent profit, obviously. So I want to make sure that before I spend the money on this piece, I want to make sure it's something that's going to move. It doesn't have flaws, that it is a brand that is worth my time to go through the process of listing. Because the other thing you have to think of when it comes down to cost of goods, especially when you are listing an item, is your time is worth something. So the time it's going to take you to take pictures, to draft it, to get it listed, to Poshmark, to all of that. Is this piece what I could potentially sell this piece for? Is it going to be worth all of that time and effort? So it does take a little bit more, I guess, consideration when it comes to items that we are purchasing to list, just to make sure that, it's going to be worth our time.
So into what you said too, about something that's going to move, we have a few things that will be high profit margin when they sell, but we're sitting on them for a while, or we've been sitting on them for a while. And that's been kind of a learning curve for us too. Just because, something's worth a lot of money, if they're not moving, it really doesn't do a lot of good to just have it sitting around. So dropping the price sometimes helps us with that. But I had something else and I totally forgot. But anyways. Yeah.
And also when we're what we're sourcing for listing items, we're not just looking at retail of items, because that was a mistake we made in the beginning when we were, first began sourcing items, is we wouldn't go on Poshmark and look at comps. We would just look up the brand and go, oh yeah, this brand retails for, this shirt retailed for over $100. It's got to be worth something. And then we'd pick it up and we'd pay like $6, $7 for it. And we'd come home and then we'd look it up on Poshmark and go, okay, retails very high, but its resell rate was not as high. And, people were selling it for like 15, 20 bucks. And we're like, well, we paid like $7 for this and now we're only going to be able to make 15. So, making sure you're paying attention to that too, is really important when you're looking at what to source. And like I said, we're always just looking for those trendy brands. So if we can find Madewell, as long as it's in good condition, I typically pick Madewell up. It's one of my favorite brands. We don't always, we used to pick up every single piece of Zara we found. We now, much in the last year or so. We now just pick up the more unique pieces.
Lucky brand.
Lucky brand typically sells fairly well. Levi's is our bread and butter brand. So we are always picking up Levi's as long as they're in great condition.
Especially
501s. 501s, men's 511s have sold very, very fast for us.
Anything vintage?
Yes, any vintage, obviously. So yes. Yeah, I was trying to think if there was anything else I was going to say on that. So, like I said, for us, we're always picking up those bread and butter brands, and then always still looking through and making sure like we're not missing out on any, you know, brand we may not have heard of, and doing our research right there within the store.
And you guys sometimes through trial and error, you'll get a feel for what sells well for you. You know, I know people that Levi's don't sell well for them, but they do. They are bread and butter for Jackie and I.
Yeah, if we looked through our Vendu analytics, Vendu would be in our top 5 brands pretty much
Levi's
every single month. Yeah, every single month. I would be surprised if it wasn't in our top 5 brands every single month, because yes, we do sell quite a bit of that. So we're always looking at the Levi's when we go to the thrift stores. So
yeah,
switching gears now into live show selling. That is a completely different mindset than items to list, and that was the hardest thing for me to really, I think, learn in the beginning when I was trying to start with live shows, because I thought it had to still be those trendy items, and I just couldn't find enough of it in our area at a price point that would be logical for live show selling. So for live show selling, we've like I said, we've changed our mindset on that. And for that, we aren't looking at brand. We are looking at season.
Yep.
We are looking at still looking at quality. And then we're looking at, for me, is it cute? Would I buy this in a live show? Would I wear this? You know, is this something that I think somebody else is going to go, oh my gosh, I love that. I have to have it, regardless of the brand. So
Jackie is better at that than determining that than me.
Yes. And that's why, like I said, when we go out to the thrift store, like, he is definitely tends to look more on the list side, whereas I'm more the sourcing for our live shows, just because I can easily fill up a cart with 80 items and then go back in and look and be like, okay, well, maybe we don't actually want this, or we don't want that. But
and I'll say, once you gain an audience, you'll know what they prefer. So I run a vintage show. Whoops, sorry about that. I run a vintage show. It used to be every week, but I've scaled it back to twice a month just so I can source better quality items. And I know that houndstooth stuff does well. Wool blend, plaid, blazers, skirts, anything like that does well, and anything lacy does well. So when I'm outsourcing, in my mind, I'm looking for that. I'm not looking for basics. Vintage basics haven't done well for me in live shows, not in a while. So, you know, for me, that's the audience I've built. For somebody else, you might have different things that you're looking for, but you know, it's not a cookie cutter. It's kind of, you know, as you decide what you're going to sell on live shows and you build an audience around that, you get a feel for what their taste is.
Yeah, and when it comes to where we source for live show selling, that is a little bit more selective in a way, because we obviously want to keep our cost of goods as low as possible so that we can, like I said, give the best deals to our buyers, especially because in live shows, things tend to start at a price that is lower than what you would list it for.
Yeah.
So we're shopping like our Salvation Army every Monday does 99-cent days for whatever color that they're phasing out.
Yep.
We're going to shop those days for our live show sales, or we're going to go to, Goodwill's now they're doing, our local Goodwills are now doing it all week, but before it was Sundays were half off days at the Goodwill. So we were only going to Goodwill's on Sundays when we were looking for stuff for our live shows, or, you know, some of our local thrift stores that run deals, we were only going on those days because, like I said, you want your cost of goods as low as possible. So we're being more selective, but not in a sense, because obviously the price is going to really weigh in on if something is going to make it into our live show or not. And that's, you know, the lots, or what did you say? The estates lots? What are they called?
Yeah, estate lots.
Sorry, it's estate lots that we just bought from this past weekend. Like, those are, because our cost of goods are going to be low, some of that will probably end up in some of our live shows, especially some of the vintage stuff.
Basically, we'll look at that, and if I can make more than $50 on it, we'll list it, and if we can't, we'll probably throw it in a live show. Yeah.
So, like I said, it's definitely a completely different mindset with live show selling, because it doesn't, if you can get those trendier brands in your live shows, that's great, but it's not necessarily needed to have a successful live show. And that was a big change for me that I about a year ago realized, which is why we started to get into live shows. You know, so some of, you know, we can sell Target brands in our live shows. And I know a lot of resellers, you know, won't pick that up to list. And us personally, you know, we won't pick it up to necessarily list it.
Right.
The only reason we'll be listing is if it doesn't end up selling in our live show, you know, might as well try to list it first. But, you know, you can get the Target brands or the Kohl's brands, you know, your more mall brand brands. Yeah. Say that 5 times fast. So that you can still pick those up, you can still move that, you can still kind of have the momentum going with those brands, and you don't have to try to figure out where to find like the designer or the high-end trendy brands. Yeah,
because we can't get it if we wanted to for the most part, unless
we, you know, source online. And when you source it on,
you pay up.
Yeah, you're paying up when you're sourcing online, so it's a little bit more difficult to throw those into your live shows.
Yeah.
So anything else that you want to talk about when it comes to where, how, or what we source?
No, I would just say keep an open mind, guys, when you're sourcing. And something that I've thought about, because I try to audit the process of our business just to try to streamline things from time to time. And I was watching a video from a very, very successful reseller. And he mentioned that the way you should look at spending your time as a reseller is if you were paying yourself, you should be worth like $35 to $55 an hour. So, you know, just make sure that the stuff that you're picking up is worth your time. So,
yeah. So that is all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed this video and got some good information out of this. Once again, if you like this video, hit like and subscribe to Vendu's YouTube channel. And until next time, guys.
See you next time.